My life was full of friends. I enjoyed hanging out, studying, and keeping up with the latest trends on Instagram. I was pretty popular and loved my life. Then one day, a guy from my past school days started following me on Instagram. I didn't really remember him well. We had shared some classes, but never really talked much. His name was Tom, and he always seemed a bit off to me. He was about my age. I think I was 21 at the time. He was tall, skinny, and always dressed in black. His Instagram was strange. All his photos were taken in a dimly lit room, making him look sad and kind of creepy. It seemed like he was trying to imitate someone from those goth groups. I didn't know what to think, but I didn't want to be rude, so I accepted his request. Right after that, he began messaging me, telling me I was pretty and that he had liked me from a distance for a long time. This surprised me because we'd seen each other around school, but he never said a word. I thought maybe he was just shy, which I could understand, but his messages made me feel uneasy. I didn't reply, hoping he would stop, but he didn't. He sent more and more messages asking why I was ignoring him. So I did the only thing I could think of. I blocked him. I hoped that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Even though we were in the same major, I never bumped into Tom at school, which I found odd but was secretly relieved about. One evening while I was scrolling through Instagram, I heard noises outside. Initially, I thought it was just one of my roommates coming back, but then footsteps outside my room made me freeze. They weren't from my roommates. I would have recognized those sounds. It was someone else. I felt scared and knew I should call the police, but I had to stay silent. I didn't want this stranger to know I was aware of their presence. I quietly grabbed my phone and sneaked into my closet, closing the door softly behind me. My heart was racing, thumping loud in my ears. Hiding in my closet, I was trying really hard to breathe quietly. The footsteps outside didn't go away, so I quietly picked up my phone and called the police. I whispered into the phone, explaining my situation, and the person on the other end told me to keep quiet and stay where I was. Time seemed to stop as I listened to someone moving around my place. Then my bedroom door opened. Now only the thin door of my closet was between me and them. I could hear the noise of someone searching through my things. I was terrified and didn't care what they wanted. After a while, I heard police sirens getting closer. The sirens grew louder, followed by the sound of footsteps hurrying away. I stayed hidden until I felt it might be safe. When I finally came out, my room was a mess. Clothes were everywhere, and my bed was turned upside down. It looked like a storm had hit my room. I was in shock because it didn't seem like it was that loud, but I was too scared to think clearly. The police were at my front door when I walked out. They might have saved me, and I was so thankful. Then, looking outside, I saw an officer with someone in handcuffs. It was Tom. Seeing him confirmed my worst fear. I couldn't believe he had broken into my place, and I felt sick. I always knew he was weird, but this was beyond my imagination. The police told me to be careful and to call them if anything else happened. I decided to stay with my family for a few days because I couldn't stand being in my apartment anymore. When I returned to university, I learned that Tom had been expelled for stalking another girl months ago. He hadn't been caught for anything serious then, so he was still out there until he targeted me. Thankfully, he was caught this time, so he couldn't harm anyone else. Before we move on to the next story, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something similar? If so, please share your experience in the comments section. I read all your comments and try to reply to everyone. Additionally, I will feature some of your experiences in my next videos. Recently, I came across something that has been freaking me out. Before I get into my discovery, let me provide some backstory to make it even more disturbing. For the past few weeks, While trying to sleep or doing things in my room at night with the light on, I would hear a single faint yet audible tap on my window. I hardly want to call it a tap because the sound didn't really resemble an intentional tap. It sounded more like something accidentally scraping or pressing against the glass briefly. At first, I thought it was just bugs flying into the window, but since the sound kept happening at least 2 or 3 times a week, I started to get freaked out. I told my dad, and he dismissed it, saying it was probably just bugs, like I initially thought. Nothing happened for a few nights, but then I received a text from a guy I used to have a class with, who somehow coerced me into giving him my number. He said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. We used to have class together. I just wanted to let you know about this. I stumbled upon it by accident, and if you're unaware of it, it's pretty disturbing." He included a link in the message. I clicked it, and it took me to an Instagram page titled JP Unofficial. Those are my initials. But the first thing I noticed was the profile picture, which was of me. The 45 pictures on that account were all of me. They were candid shots that I never knew were taken. Some were of me at the beach, some of me sitting in my car, but the newer ones were even creepier. There were pictures of me in my backyard, and the worst ones were the most recent. Pictures of me in my room taken from outside my window. Some showed me sitting on my bed doing homework or texting. Others showed me standing, with one even showing me in my underwear. I felt sick, like crying and throwing up. All the pictures had at least 2 or 3 likes, and some had comments, not pointing out how wrong this was, but encouraging it with remarks like, "Go for it, hot," or what I'd do if I could get my hands on her. The captions were disturbing too, saying things like, "The love of my life," "She went to the beach today," or "I just like to watch her." As I read through the page, a tear rolled down my face. I was overwhelmed with emotions I couldn't even describe. Then I heard the sound again at the window, the scraping or tapping. It clicked, and it all made sense. I snapped, lost it, and screamed louder than I ever had before. My dad came rushing in, asking what was wrong. I showed him the Instagram page and tried to explain the tapping sound. Well, explained is a stretch. I was a mess and could barely speak clearly. My dad's expression went from gentle to horrified to downright angry. He rushed outside, making a scene for the neighbors, searching for the stalker. He then came inside and called the police. I gave them the Instagram account and requested they track it as soon as possible. Law enforcement put the request into Instagram, but by the time it was processed, the account was deleted. However, Instagram was still able to recover the information, and the usage was traced to an old iPod Touch. Unfortunately, the device was untraceable. It was either destroyed or had its Wi-Fi turned off permanently. My dad, seeing how distressed I was, plans to move us out of the house within the month. Luckily, there haven't been any new sounds, but I make sure to keep all my blinds shut 24/7 and always check that I'm not being followed while driving. All I can say to everyone is to keep your Instagram private and always be alert to your surroundings. Before we move on to the next story, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something similar? If so, please share your experience in the comments section. I read all your comments and try to reply to everyone. Additionally, I will feature some of your experiences in my next videos. I have an Instagram account with 1,100 followers. I had it set to public so anyone could visit my page, like my photos and comment on them. Often, I would get people I didn't know liking and commenting on my pictures, but one person stood out from the rest. I remember his first comment on one of my photos, a beach picture with one of my friends. I was wearing a swimsuit. The photo had around 11 comments, but one of them was from someone I didn't recognize. It consisted of 3 flame emojis. I clicked on the man's profile. He had 3 pictures, 80 followers, and was following over 200 people, including me. All three of his pictures were selfies, which seemed odd, given that it looked like he was in his 40s or 50s. I didn't mind too much. It was something I expected to a certain extent. However, after that, started commenting on every new photo I posted. One comment simply said, "hot." This comment was a bit creepier, but I brushed it off. 2 days later, after posting my next picture, the man didn't comment. Instead, he sent me a direct message that said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you that you're beautiful." Even though I'm about 30 years older than you, I responded with thanks, which surprised me since most people would have probably ignored it. He replied, "I would kill to meet a girl like you." I responded with thanks 10 minutes later, hoping he wouldn't say anything else. He came back with, "Maybe one day I'll meet you." I didn't reply to that. I found everything about the guy creepy, but I didn't block him. I figured, why get rid of a free follower and likes? I hadn't heard from him until I posted a new photo of my sister Carol and me in front of our house. The man commented quickly saying, "You and your sister are so cute." It was becoming too much, so I removed the comment and blocked him. Later that day, Carol and I were home alone. I was in the bathroom doing my nails, getting ready to go out. I noticed a car I didn't recognize pull up in front of the house through the window. Only the front of the car was visible, as the rest was obscured by a bush. The headlights turned off, but I didn't see anyone step out. I took note of this because we live on a dead-end block and don't get much through traffic. I shut the blinds since I was on full display. My sister was in her room on her laptop. When it was time for me to leave, I didn't bother saying goodbye. Usually, we just text each other about going out. I went to my car, which was parked next to the mysterious vehicle, a Maxima. The tinted windows mixed with the darkness of the night made it impossible to see inside. I got in my car, did a 3-point turn, and drove down the one-sided street to the nearest main road. I went to a social gathering at a friend's house. I wouldn't call it a party, but there was quite a bit of drinking. I cut myself off a little early since I knew I had to drive, but I admit, and I don't condone this kind of behavior, I was pretty tipsy when driving home. It was only a 5-minute drive, though. I pulled up to my house and noticed the Maxima was still parked out front. I needed to find out whose car it was, so I passed it slowly but still couldn't see inside. I parked, texted a few friends that I was home safe, and then stepped outside to walk up to my house. I was eyeing the car all the way to the front door, where I dropped my keys. For some reason, I was too scared to bend over and look for them, so I rang the doorbell 5 times, hoping my sister would answer quickly. She never did, so I had to get on my knees and search for the keys. They were right on the doormat. I opened the door and went inside quickly, taking one last look at the Maxima before shutting the door. It was past midnight, but my sister was usually still up. I dizzily but quietly walked up the stairs and down the hall towards her door, which was wide open but the lights were off. Maybe she went out. I crept into the room and my heart skipped a beat as I tried to piece together the faint noise I was hearing. It took me a while to realize it was a whisper. My sister was whispering from the closet. The closet was slightly open, and I saw my sister peeping her eyes through the crack. She looked visibly shaken and appeared to be crying. I knelt down next to her and opened the closet all the way, whispering, "What's going on?" She didn't say anything, just kept putting her finger on her lips, signaling me to be quiet. I tugged at her arm to pull her out of the closet. When she was out, I quietly shut the closet door, revealing someone standing in the center of the room. I don't know if he was facing us or not, but it didn't matter. We both screamed and ran together. I felt the vibrations of the man stomping close behind us. We went straight for the car, and I was able to lock the doors just in time before he tried the handle. When he realized it was locked, he started bashing the window with his shoulder, while my sister screamed and wailed. Through the intensity of the situation, I was able to connect the dots. It was the same man who had been stalking me on Instagram. I had to do a 3-point turn, but kept honking the horn to attract as much attention as possible from the neighbors. It seemed to work because he got into his car, which turned out to be the Maxima, and did a 3-point turn as well. At first, we thought he was following us, but he sped past us and down another street, never to be seen again. We turned around and went back to the house. I called our parents and then the police. The police found out how the man broke in through an upstairs window. He had climbed up a ladder onto the awning and boosted himself up to the window. I told the police about how he had been stalking me on Instagram and must have found my address when I posted the recent picture with my sister, which included our house number. I tried to help by giving the man's Instagram account, but when I went to the blocked account section, it was empty. This meant the man had already deleted his Instagram. Even if Instagram could track deleted users, it didn't matter because I didn't remember the man's username. Unfortunately, there was nothing the police could do, and I knew it. I have since set my Instagram to private, and now only accept follow requests from people I know. I'm also much more paranoid and wary of posting revealing photos. If you find these stories chilling, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more gripping tales. Share your story in the comments below. I love to hear your experiences. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.